3, 2, 1. We're on.
Good
evening. Welcome to Seahorse Medicine Cafe in the Australian Poetry Hall of Fame on Thundercloud in pink.
And
My mum calls
me
James. Watch away the gardens, leaving rainbows after rain. Don't be afraid of the thunderclouds. No, that's the one I've been singing to you in the mornings.
Everyone's
in front
of I've been waking up to that, James. It's beautiful.
I know, nothing like a bit of opera or
yeah, what was it? Oh, it's lovely. Oh, yeah,
God Save the Queen from the Sex Pistols.
Yeah, but it's 7 o'clock in the morning, James, you know. No, that should be...
Yeah, exactly. But she did get, like, what was that, Ave Maria first.
Oh, that was fabulous. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. Yeah, no, it was good.
Just shows my vocal range.
Yeah, mate, you're doing well.
All right. Welcome, everybody, to the Poets. We've got a warm night in the Seahorse Medicine Cafe because it's a cold night outside. Yeah. Brass monkeys have been rolling. Now, begin the night with acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land, the band by Kamilaroi people on which we broadcast, and the continuing connection of the elders past, present and emerging to the land, and acknowledge sovereignty's never been ceded. And move on from that now into poetry. Well, it's been an interesting week for me because last night I was reading on Chillin' Tuesdays, which you can also catch here on YouTube, the Song Circle of Jacky by Mudrooroo Colin Johnson. And I'm going to start the evening with, I read last night up to the first 15 bits of poetry, and tonight I'm going to read 4 Aboriginal poems from India. Now, Colin Johnson was born in 1938 in Western Australia. He was a Noongar man. And he, after having conversations with Kath Walker, or Udjuru Noonuccal, as she changed her name to, he also changed his name by deed poll to Mudrooroo Noongar. So, as Kath Walker changed her name to Udjuru, which means paperbark of the Noonuccal tribe of Minjerribah, straight up Hyland, he changed his name to Mudrooroo, which also means paperbark, Noongar, of where he's from. There was some controversy later in his life that he may have not been Aboriginal and that he might have been of African American descent because of his Johnson family, but he identified really strongly as Aboriginal and was responsible for coining the term Aboriginality at the time. He also wrote the foreword for what's his name?
Charlie Perkins.
No, the other one. Thanks, Paul.
Sorry.
Yeah. So this is from the Song Circle of Jacky and selected poems of Mudrooroo. And he travelled to India and studied also Buddhism while he was over there. Lived to 81, so only passed in 2019. 4 Aboriginal poems from India. Number 1. Come brothers, come together. Seek out the way to prosperity. Let us plough and trade and work with our hands. Let us become educated. Then we shall arise anew. 2. Shaking off sleep and rubbing eyes, everywhere people are rising. Why? Unconscious like logs and stones. Everywhere the light of knowledge is dawning. Everywhere your snores loudly fill your darkness. Everywhere people are advancing. You alone lie still. Everywhere people racing ahead. You're not even crawling a few inches. Everywhere people ascending to the skies. How long shall you stay down? When even those below have passed you, they trample upon us, let us arise. How many of us have light and learning? What do we do for all the good of all? Our educated are content only to fill the belly. How sad they're stuffing their little belly, like the crow, the fox, and the bear. You were born a human, higher than these, but all you care about is self. No good for your hands and your people. Listen to me, you hoes. Get up and work for all. Get up, struggle for people and country. Oh brothers, the times have changed. No more do the drums pound in love and joy. Now the rhythm flows for the good of all. Don't toss your head in the dance. Don't drink bottle after bottle. Then reach for the larger flagon and cask. For more and more, no thought for your country. Drunkards, get off your feet and untie yourselves. Drive off evil customs and join with the world. Listen to what I have to say. Old ways in you linger in you, through your body be changed. Outdoing the English in cutting and combining the hair. In your clothing and the use of scent, you mock the Bengalis, but you are ignorant and scentless like the pollash flower. 3. In the garden, the eye entrancing rose. In full bloom spreads its fragrance. It opens and beams bright for a time, then withers away to dry flakes. How sad. One day to bloom, the next to fade. But though those petals die, a treasure remains. Diogam, the poet, made this song in praise of the treasure left behind. After the fading, after the colour decaying, until all beauty is traceless. Still the breeze touches dryness, spreads sweet perfume everywhere. This is your fate, O mankind. Your loveliness shall shine bright only for a day. Even though you frequent physicians, death will come and leave you withered, dead petals on a broken stem. What use are beauty and youth? They arrive and go. Good deeds in this world, and your name endures and admits the fragrance of the rose. 4. At sunrise, the sunbeams are red, and it's easy to get food and drink. Young life drifts on pleasantly, without storms and cares. Happily, you sit in the shade with your parents. At noon, the easy sunbeam turns hard. You have to work for your food and drink. Days are planned and the easy drifting is no more. Life does not glide, but lurches from fear to distress. Take care then, even the rising sun. Be prepared for strife and the noon heat. Set your face and struggle against your fears, or they will overcome you. Work hard, and make open the road before you. And one more love song. No. But I can enjoy it.
I love your pink hat, James.
Thanks.
It looks fabulous.
Yeah.
Mate, oh.
I'll do my Thundercloud song. No, this is I have a cunning plan. Love song. I have no need of love songs. Rani is my wife. She works beside me in the field. She's black, but comely. That's what they say. Rani is my life. Young and lithesome, strong to plant the paddy. She might have borne me sons, but she was black and comely. At least that's what they said. Rani was my wife. They took her away one day. They found her naked in the field. Black but ugly, her mouth stuffed with dirt. Now I sing my love song. How long, my Lord, how long? Rani was my wife. Now I sit beside the roadside, singing Rani, my life is gone. Candy Royale, she she only lived to 37. She died in, I honestly I've forgotten now, was it 19 or 18? She was a great poet, great performance poet, and did a lot for bringing awareness, particularly to the Palestinian issue and gay and lesbian issues as well. A trillion tiny awakenings. Listen to this non-profit, this high priestess of poetry. We no more hatred, just love. We are pure love. We are pure love. In this gathering, every gathering is sacred. Listen. All right, so here we go. Now we're getting serious.
Serious, the shirt's off.
Yes, you did.
Oh, really getting into some broad stuff.
And it's pink, mate.
Pink.
Yeah. So, we got a pink theme happening tonight.
Pink thing.
Yeah, because I've got shoes with pink bits on it,
Oh, yeah.
just there. I've got a pink hat on.
Yeah, but that hat gets called lots of things.
It does, doesn't it? It's my penis head hat.
Yes, I thought you said pink hat on.
I've got a
You
pink
said
hat
hat
on.
on.
Oh well, I'm frozen stiff here. It's pretty cold in Guyra.
We're waiting for the snow.
All right.
Oh, your surfboard. Oh,
Yeah, that's my yoga.
meditation.
Well, look, I started out with this because we've got next Friday here a Pacific Vibes night. Yeah, Winter Vibes Pacific Dance Night. So this is sort of as close to a Hawaiian shirt as I could get because I got heaps of Hawaiian shirts. I could have got better.
Tell them to drive down from
But it had
Brisbane
pink
for it.
bits, and I was like, I'm all pink and matched up now.
It's the
And I
only
was like, I
place,
had to match.
only place in the world they can experience tropical snow.
Absolutely. Yeah, and tropical people.
In the snow.
All right, well, so this was written after a Mardi Gras organising meeting where Michael Balderstone mentioned the clash of classes and the yoga walks. So Yeah, that explains the pink. I'm in my yoga stuff. I'm in my yoga pants. I didn't get my yoga pants on. I've lost my blue yoga pants. Oh no! Anyway,
We'll get you some pink.
there was the yoga wars. There was a clash of classes, and Sonny cracked as shit. I was here before you today. And Angel said, "Suck it. I challenge you to a yoga battle," Sonny said to Angel. "This is Warrior 1 and this one here is Table." Sonny, with a bleached blonde hair and a pink leotard, did a cobra and an upward dog and her nipples got very hard. "You want to salute to the sun? I was here before you." Angel didn't flinch and went into Warrior 2. Angel said to Sonny, "Bitch, you are a pain. You can't afford this leotard I got from Lorna Jane." Then she didn't salute the sun. She did a downward doggy too. She flashed her ass at Sonny and said to her, "Fuck you." Sonny did a cat cow and then a Warrior 3. She raised herself up tall and did a mountain pose, then a tree. She was pretty good. Angel took a deep breath and just sat in lotus pose. She just sat there very quietly and thumbed her snotty nose. Well, Sonny took a yoga mat and rolled it very tight, and she whacked it into Angel's head with all the yogi might. Well, the yoga wars began that day at the rising of the sun, because Angel arrived before Sonny and got a better view of the sun.
That's it.
That's it.
Oh, well, there you go.
Well, and now I'm going to put on back this t-shirt, not because I'm cold, because I'm not. It's all in your imagination. Yeah?
Yeah, right.
You wait till it snows, I'll be out there rolling in it naked. Yep. And then you'll be up questioning my gender.
Yeah.
Glenn Skewthorpe came here last week.
Very good show. Excellent show.
Wasn't he? Everyone enjoyed it. Yeah. So, big shout out to Glenn, Emma, and Lady Jameson, who were here. Thank you very much for coming to the Australian Poetry Hall of Fame.
And
Lady Jameson, yeah.
she was the one.
The pianist.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
And then on Sunday, we had Laura Zarb come too. And
Oh,
the
what a great
Soul
show.
Express, another talented
Great show.
human.
Yeah,
Wow.
wonderful show.
So yeah, and yeah, as I said, coming up here, we've got next Friday the Solomon Island Band and the Vanuatu Band, and music. It's a Pacific winter vibes dance party for the local workers to keep warm on a Friday night. Yeah,
Way to go.
it's $10 entry.
Do they bring their own songs, mate? Because they write
They do.
their songs, don't they?
They do. Some of them they bring their own. Some of them they sing other people's, and they're
Okay.
really, really awesome.
They
So
have done music.
the Solomon Island Band, they will be doing their
And
own
then Vanuatu.
lots of covers, and the Vanuatu String Band do their unique
good, mate.
string band music, which is pretty huge all right through Vanuatu. Every island has their own string bands, etc. Super talented guys and singers in both bands. So. Looking forward to it. Right. Well, on that note, I'm going to invite someone up. Who would like to come on up? Do you want to come on up, Steve?
Oh, why not?
Yeah.
Why not?
Excellent.
It's always good to be.
Welcome.
Whoa, it's always good to be here. Hello everybody in Guyra and out there on YouTube land. It's what a wonderful time to be. I'm going to be heading up to Yetman, not this Sunday, but the Sunday after for the Yetman Yeti or whatever it is. And it's a weekend, a Sunday morning, and I'll be there voicing my opinion and telling some stories for you people up there. So please, everybody in the area, come and visit and say hello when we get there. Because, yeah, it really is something that is going to be a great show, and in times when we've been locked down and all sorts of things, it's good to be able to see new stuff. When the fires of inspiration are ignited and the poetic words start to flow, like the rapids in the mountains and the imagination grows, don't damn the flow of magic. Be inspired by every word. Let's use the words we are given to instigate the change of logic that is needed in these times and voice the inspiration from that inert higher self and realise and know that we have got this. Be inspired by every word. I sit watching the dragonflies dancing in the sunlight to the harmonic classic tones of Tchaikovsky's Third Symphony, and the dance as a ballet, set by the glories of the universe and the wonders of the nature. This beautiful day just shines as I sit in the memories of bliss that I share with you. The lovely gardens blooming in the warmth of the early morning sun, and the sounds of nature as the many birds go about their daily routine, and to constant hum of the honeybees. Our part in the harmony of life, we always search for who we are and what is the purpose of my life. There is magic in the mountains with the Aussie sounds around us as we travel through the universe, and we thrive here in nature as Mother Earth supplies. With the waters from the mountain springs and the sounds of birds as they sing and the gentle breeze just whispering a lovely lullaby. There's time of gathering while the crew are slowly mustering and the instruments are turned up to make that special vibe. Yes, the magnetism is magic, not bound by the illusion and the outside world's confusion as we open up our eyes. Yes, we open up our real eyes and we realise the realised to the truth that has been found. So we live here in abundance with the Aussie sounds around us, with the orchestra of nature. And we found our place in the symphony, tried by virus, fire, floods and hardship, and the spirit of this southern land really comes alive. Gotta put this aside and do some poetry, eh? It's always good to do poetry. When you open up your eyes to realise the real eyes and realise the real lies, there's plenty of real lies in this life. And there's lots of lies around us, but we get into some of these things when we talk in poetry. So people say, where does a fellow like me come from? When I was the Tenterfield Cobbler, I was asked to do a little bit of writing of a poem, and I was asked to set something for the oracles of the bush.
The oracles.
I was brought up in the country in the place called Wedderburn on the side of the Georges River, with the stags and the elks and the ferns. There wasn't many luxuries, no, things weren't very plush, but we had this long drop dunny called the orifice of the bush. There's one thing that I know for sure, and I spent a lot of time just doodling in the dirt there, and I even wrote some rhyme, a place to fantasise and figure out, but everything was true. I hired out from the washing up like young lads often do. I'd always lift the lid up to avoid a bit of fright, to eradicate the chances of the dreaded redback bite. Like mum's old chook, I'd settle in with me pants around me knees to the sound of the neighbour's rampant bull and fruit bats in the trees. Like a medieval king, I'd sit upon his gilded throne, my favourite place, I must admit, in our lovely country home. Yes, I'm a connoisseur of dunnies, of this it is a fact, a place to try, a place to check, before I hang my hat. I remember when I left the bush in a council house in town, there was an outhouse out the back. Yeah, a place to settle down. It wasn't quiet as our country home, but it had all the mods and cons. Running water, electric light, and an oven to cook scones. I'd only been there a week, I think, when I awoke with an awful fright. There was a shadow past the window in the middle of the night. I'd heard about these prowlers and their low-down thieving tricks, but they'd taken on the wrong bloke this time, this lad from out the sticks. Well, I hit the floor running. There wasn't time to put on clothes. I'll get that flaming larrikin and I'll probably break his nose. Through the front door quietly, the blood was pumping fast. I'd stop him at the gate, I thought, as the bare feet hit the grass. He was running up the footpath with his booty on his back. I'd played rugby in my school days and I'd stop him in his track. Well, I hit him round the ankles and he had nowhere to go. Yeah, I dropped him like a dunny lid and all he said was, "No!" The smell was something awful. I'd never live it down. I'd nailed the poor old dunny man and I'd dropped him on the ground. There was excretion all across the grass and right across the road. The lid had left the dunny can and he dropped a flaming load. Well, throughout my years of wandering, I think I've tried the lot. There's the environmental sound ones, there's flush lavatories, and there's pots. There's collectors of pubs, of pins, of bottle stamps and plants, but I'm the international. No, universal secretary of the place you drop your pants. I've tested loos across this land and I've tried the loos abroad. There's the ones you pull the chain on, there's authentic ones, and there's frauds, but there's nothing in comparison when you have to strain and push as a good old Aussie dunny and the orifice of the bush. Yeah, that was a concoction from the Tenterfield area and the oracles of the bush and things of that nature. You know, there's a few things that were involved in up there. You know, like I led the Federation Parade as Henry Parks, you know, and people said, you know, the reason old Henry came to Tenterfield has always been a mystery. He came to visit the cobbler. The likeness to him was profound. Old Henry was a drinking man with a vision of bringing the states together. But when it came time for him to make his speech, old Henry was under the weather. Well, they showered him and hosed him down, but things were not so good. So they smartened up the cobbler. And then for Henry he stood. This is a tale that's known by a few, so don't spread it around. But don't leave the birthplace of this land unless you've met the cobbler of this town. So, you know, yeah, we have all the different things that we do, don't we? Can I do another one poem there, James? Yeah, for sure. I think I'd probably...
Prison rules.
When I did the a reenactment of the Breaker Morant story, and Breaker Morant was a great poet. He was a bush poet, and you know, up in Tenterfield they've got celebrations of Major Thomas and such, you know, and we think, you know, what is this story? Anyway, I was asked to be Major Thomas in the court case of this story, see. So I went up and had a look at up on Mount Mackenzie there's an old beaten out house where he was and such, you know. And the house now was beaten and broken. There was bullet holes in the flag. The words that he'd thought of and were spoken lost by the tears of the sad. He came home to a town that he'd left from, hurt, disgusted and mad, torn apart by a wrong-made decision that crucified one of his lads. The Aussie troops they had mustered from a nation newly born, from all the outback stations where 1 million sheep were shorn, came the men that rode the fences. They were young and hard as nails, without a pioneer spirit and a will that seldom fails. They were brought up on them stock horse. I better find where I'm up to. They were brought up on them stock horse. Sorry. We're getting this.
Edible.
Sorry. It's you, Gladys, laughing at me there, you know. I get into all sorts of carry-ons when we lose our place, don't we? Oh, look, I'm going to do something else because that's a great story, but you know, it's a great story, but you'll have to read my book to get the rest of it. My book's called Where the Rubber Hits the Road in This Game They Call Life, and it's by Steve Wordsmith, okay? It's on e-books, but if you can get it through here, you can get it through the Australian Poetry Hall of Fame, or just give us a call and we'll organise you getting one. So that's a sort. Here's one, just a little one just to finish off with, okay? I met him first near Warren working on a starved out farm. He was skeletor and sallow, lean of shank and long of arm. Wide lips and flared out nostrils that spoke his native blood. Battler, scratching hard existence in this land of drought and flood. But he won a tight survival chasing rabbits day and night. He had no gun, no ammunition. Just knock him out in flight with a waddy for a weapon, junk or rock was just the same. And he'd grab that groggy bunny and he'd say, that was deadly aim. Seldom off his target gave those spielers a little rest in them knock-em sock-em alleys in the showground out the west. The day that I enlisted, he was standing next to me, and I heard him tell the captain that his name was Darky Lee. Oh, often quiet and moody, lonely in a crowd, no doubt, or perhaps the dip of colour made him feel the odd man out. But he was a willing soldier, and a dinkum cobber too, like the night the MP's quarters at that swai game in the loo. Yeah, he nailed that provost sergeant cold as any side of meat, with a well-aimed whiskey bottle at the range of 20 feet. Mighty quick we were escaping, and I heard our mate exclaim as we scarpered through the alleys, fellas, that was deadly aim. Then our mob embarked for service to a land across the sea, where the final call awaited for that bloke called Darky Lee. It was at the Flanders dust-up, at a place called Blardner's Court. We copped a bad position. Yeah, men cut off without support, and that enemy machine gun keeping up a steady fire, safe and sound in their encampment behind barricade and wire. Flat we lay like bloody lizards on that piece of shell-raked plain, and that enemy machine gun pelted lead like summer rain. Well, our choice was die like heroes or the white surrender flag. When our officer decided it was time to sky the rag, take your choice, a German prison or a group of unmarked mounds. When this bloke goes racing past me like a hare before the hounds strike me blue, but it was Darky. Like an emu crouching low, in his right hand was a grenade swinging ready for the throw. No cover to protect him, dashing, daring as you please, where those Mitchell houses chattered and the bullets hummed like bees, and fair into that enemy gun pit he dispatched his first grenade. Screams were heard from brave men dying as that scarlet blossom burst. Then he sent them up another just as quickly as the first, German gunner or rabbit. It was all the same to our champion Bundy Chucker. He maintained his deadly aim. Then a dying spurt of gunfire rang the bell on Darky Lee. By the time the medics got there, he was very nearly gone, though his belly parts were punctured, his heart was hanging on, and in final grief we listened to the gasp that shook his frame, and the final words he uttered, fellas, that was deadly aim. Just another unsung hero gone unhallowed and unsung, when in one of many number when the final curtain rung, native son with small ambition, oh, our hearts decree, a soldier in the true tradition. Rest untroubled, Darky Lee. Well, thanks for having us. Remember, come up to Yetman up there because it's Sunday morning. We're going to be having a great time up there, and we'll be taking some of the inspiration of the Australian Poetry Hall of Fame there and saying hello to all the people in our northern area up at Yetman. So be there or be square. Enjoy it, and it's really good to have an opportunity to be able to do the poetry, and that the world is a better place because poets are in it.
Wow.
Thank you.
Going through some of my poetry, and I come across this thing I'd written, and it was about a neighbour of mine in South Brisbane. Her name's Marietta. And I just want to share this with you. It's a Greek saying translated to English. It goes like this. One hand washes the other, and together they wash the face. Yeah. It's about community.
Yeah. That's good.
And she said that to me after the roof blew off in 2014. And she asked if there was anything she could do to help, if I could do it, you know, if I wanted any money or anything like that. And I said, no, it's all right, thank you though. And she said, in my culture, we have this saying, one hand washes the other, and together they wash the face. And it's about community. This was when I wrote, because it's called The Winter of My Content, and maybe it was written 2 years ago, or maybe it was written 1 year ago. Winter, and I'm going to edit it tonight. I'm not going to read it all out as it is, because it's out of date. It's funny how things go like that. Winter of My Content. Half a century of winters is only 12 and a half years. Sitting around fires once with friends, once involved beers, bongs and joints, and Guyra's different. Cold and frosty alone, this is the winter of my content, and I run. After 50 years, for many, is twilight. This is my dawn, my sunrise. Cold frost, crystals glint in the morning light. Even summer is cold with crepuscular rays. Through fog and snow gums at Thunderbolt's cave. Inhale deep. Exhale steam, and running over granite boulders and rock, Angus cattle, goats and sheep in a flock. Ciggies, beers. Dropped in procession, health and wellness, a new obsession, and I run. And poetry, and poetry, and poetry. A poet and a tree. Everywhere, trees. Red maples with bright leaves line the main street, turning to hibernating skeletons as winter approaches. Cold winds blow leaves, and the winter of my content encroaches. Acclimating to the cold, the early morning hours are employed alone, bringing joy. Ears ring as rainbow lorikeets and white cockatoos screech and sing. Blessed I am to experience this bliss and peace. Hey sheep, are you cold with shorn fleece? And I run, tears in eyes, emotions rise, misty sunrise, two rabbits running a surprise. Slender rice flowers form parasols with snowgrass, kangaroo grass, bright yellow common buttercups, Yarra Kalgumba, it's called. Minibuses of Pacific workers in high-vis shirts or wave as they pass in the dawn, preparing to pick hydroponic tomatoes in the warm greenhouses. Guyra Casper's soccer field, empty, frost-covered. Guyra Spud's rugby league field, empty, frost-covered. And I run. Snow tomorrow. There's no tomorrow. There's only now. Alone. Experiencing each moment in slow motion. Time slows, wind blows, and I run. This is the winter of my content, and it's a magic potion, tasting like hot chocolate with marshmallows. The dew on spiderwebs glints like the beard of a wizard, casting spells to create the approaching blizzard. And I run, take 1 part meditation, throw in a little elation, feels like -5 but it's 0. I run to warm up, not to be a hero. To increase the production of cold stressor protein, pumping arms and legs like a machine. The beauty of winter makes ointment. This is the winter of my content, and I run. It's beautiful. Like at 5 o'clock in the morning, at 5:30 would be when it's like freezing. There's not even the sun up. And it's freezing cold, and you just run and you're not all cold.
Keep moving.
Yeah, and then you see stuff, like all of that stuff. I'd like to invite Ashley up.
Well,
Well,
I rushed out on a cold morning, and I did manage to bring 3 of them. Aren't they magnificent? Hip, hip hooray! H for hypothesis, I for implication, and P for parameter. And everyone should carry them around either in pocket or car. Now, as we were moving through the English language tonight, I sat over the back and I read a poem by Charles Harper, A Flight of Wild Ducks. And wherever you are, whoever you are, if you're interested into going with Australia, some of Charles Harper's poems are really wonderful. I didn't know this one, and I'm not going to read it tonight, but I thought it was expansive in the most profound way. Perhaps James can read it later on tonight to give a sweeping benediction to our event. Well, I will start with a couple of my philosophical rambles in my diary. The first slice allows us to place or to cut our mark. The last slice will flutter like an autumn leaf of farewell. Reshaping Lucretius, the word lies open to the mind lies open to the word. And when I wrote half asleep and half awake, looking up at the gas fixture on my wall this morning, the fire burnt out has earned its way to the light. Here's a short amusement that I scribbled as I was sitting at the table. Gunada, mer, bar, unada, oga, oga, wagga, wagga, bogga, bri, Broken Hill, Tukumwal, Turingai, Kempsey, Collie, Collerena, bri, Barabinga Guard, Singleton, Mullumbimby, Bentley, Brewarrina, Burke, Ballina, Brisbane, Perth, Brewarrina, Alice Springs, and one Vented, Venton. So, you can play around with Australian names. I was sitting in a park.
Don't forget Gajigong.
Oh, Gajigong. Yeah. And what's that place with all the beautiful boats? There used to be a port south of Melbourne. Portland. Let's not forget Portland. What is a night without memories of Portland? So, Winter Arvo. I was sitting in the park in Uralla yesterday, and I wrote Winter Arvo light, sharp and still. High up the leaf shivers with lonely throughnesses. Majesty of holding on. Soon to drop, return to the dank clotted coverlet again. trunk, branch, burgeoning sheer alone on your lone branch, rise up through. This is a philosophical one now. Often I'm driving along and I think of the phrase Zen and the phrase Zen and end. So Zen and Zen and Zen and Zen and Zen to all those rhythmic faux concrete poems so popular in the 60s, something or others poems. Yeah, that's all that laughter, I enjoyed that too. So that's Zen and Zen and end. I love rhythm because I'm a bit challenged by it. The moment I was born, I felt it, but I've always wondered for what purpose. Well, I won't get into Alice in Wonderland. Here we have it. I was chatting to James out on the roadway about philosophy 2 hours ago. It's very mysterious that at the middle we have 0, and on this side we have +1, and on this side we have -1. But as I said when crossing the street, what does that make 0? Now, a man with 3 rulers is possibly to be envied or pitied. Now, I want to show something of Australian literary history. There were a series of these books that Penguin published in the 60s and the early 70s, and they have a certain magnificence of graphic. Does that come up well? Yeah. Or not? Quite well? Uh-huh. That's the back cover, and then just to show that we're in Australia, this is the front cover. And I always loved the graphics, the yin and the yang of it, suburbia and, well, what would we call it? Deserbia. And in these books, some were classic texts with photographs and illustrations all the way through of English classics. But this one, of course, was Australia. It had a photograph of me, actually, in an earlier reincarnation. I thought I'd sing a song. I was so buggered this morning. I didn't think I'd get here, but here's one of my great loves, by one of my great loves, about a great love, transient and deathly as may be. Very beautiful, by John Manifold. This was published in the United States and had a great readership and great acclaim in the early 60s. Fife tune for 6th Platoon, 308th ITC. Can anyone tell me what ITC stood for from our war years?
I'm too cold.
I'm too cold, thank you very much. I'm not, but I haven't had a war. I've only had, I'm boasting, these are the things I like to boast about as a poet. I've only had 2 warm showers in my 10 years living on New England. And when I say that to some people here, it has an impact.
How many golden showers? Now
this is, I learnt those tricks for cold showers off my Russian friends, but I wouldn't have one in -20. Now,
Jump in the ice.
Fife tune. It's short and sweet. One morning in spring we marched from devices, all shapes and all sizes, like beads on a string, like beads on a string. But yet with our swing we trod the blue metal, and full of high fettle we started to sing. She ran down the stair, a 12-year-old darling, and laughing and calling, she tossed her bright hair, silent to stare at the men flowing past her, There were all she could master, adoring her there. It's seldom I'll see a sweeter or prettier. I doubt we'll forget her in 2 years or 3. And lucky he'll be she takes for a lover, while we are far over the treacherous sea. I remember 40 years ago when I first read John Manifold's beautiful ditty there, and my heart cried forever. What can a heart do? I will finish with a poem that's a story. I love narrative poetry. But first I should say what I've been reading. What is my canon? Get me a canon, James. I have to announce my weekly reading piece for the canon. It's lovely to call our library or reading culture the canon. Apt image. I've been reading Balzac's The Red Inn, and I can see a great pool of blood with a head in it just over there to the left of me, in salute and memory of the Red Inn. But it's an extraordinary piece of writing from a truly extraordinary writer. What struck me was the tragic sense of guilt at Napoleon's armies invading and conquering. Forced as they may have been, still violence really never brings us victory. And I will finish with a poem that is really very relevant to my country and its Anglo culture, which is still very dominant here. All the banks are connected to London one way or another. It's called, I hope you enjoy it, I do, Incident in Hyde Park, 1803. It's very famous because it has a somewhat eccentric quality. It actually happened, and it points to the passing of history, particularly as I read it now with the maritime power of our old empire truly on the wane. Incident in Hyde Park, 1803, by Edmund Blunden. The impulses of April, the rain gems, the rose cloud, the thrilling of flowers in the westering love wind, and here through the park come gentlemen riding, and there through the park come gentlemen riding, and behind the glossy horses Newfoundland dogs follow. Says one dog to the other, "This park, sir, is mine, sir." The reply is not wanting, horse clashing and mouthing arouses the masters. Then Colonel Montgomery of the Life Guards dismounts. "Whose dog is this?" The reply is not wanting from Captain McNamara, Royal Navy. It's a key to all this, Captain Royal Navy. That's me interpolating. "My dog." "Then call your dog off, or by God he'll go sprawling." "If my dog goes sprawling, you must knock me down after." "Your name?" "McNamara." "And yours is Montgomery." "And why, sir, not call your dog off?" "Sir, I choose not to do so. No man has dictated to me yet, and you, I propose, will not change that. This place for adjusting disputes is not proper." And the Colonel, back to the saddle, continues, "If your dog fights my dog, I warn you, I knock your dog down. For the rest, you are welcome to know where to find me, Colonel Montgomery, and you will, of course, respond with the due information. Be sure of it. Now comes the evening, green twinkling, clear echoing, and out to Chalk Farm the Colonel, the Captain, each with his group of believers have driven. Primrose Hill on an April evening, even now in a fevered London, sings a vesper sweet. But these will try another music. Hark! These are the pistols, let us test them. Quite perfect. Montgomery, McNamara, 6 paces, 2 faces. Montgomery, McNamara, both speaking together in nitra and lead. The style is incisive. Montgomery fallen, McNamara half falling. Surgeon exploring the work of the evening. The Newfoundland dog stretched at home in the firelight. The coroner's inquest, the view of one body and then pale supported appears at Old Bailey, James McNamara, to whom this arraignment you stand charged that you with force and arms did assault Robert Montgomery with a certain pistol of the value of 10 shillings loaded with powder and a lead bullet, which the gunpowder feloniously exploded, drove into the body of Robert McNamara and gave one mortal wound. Thus you did kill and slay the said Robert Montgomery. O heavy imputation! O dead that yet speaks! O evening transparency! Burst to red thunder! Speak, McNamara. He tremulous as a wildflower exactly imparts what had slaughtered the colonel. Insignificant the origin of the fact now before you. Defending our dogs we grew warm. That was nature. That heat of itself had not led to disaster. From defence to defiance was the leap that destroyed at once. He would have it, my deity. Honour! If you are offended, you know where to find me. On one side I saw the wide mouths of contempt, mouth to mouth working, 1,000 vile gun mouths. On the other side, my honour, gentlemen of the jury, I am a captain of the Royal Navy. Then said Lord Hood, for Captain McNamara is a gentleman, and so says the Navy. Then said Lord Nelson, I've known McNamara 9 years, a gentleman, beloved in the Navy, not to be affronted by any man true. Yet as I stand here before God and my country, McNamara has never offended, and would not man, woman, child. Then a springtide of admirals, almost Neptune in person, proclaim McNamara mild, amiable caution as any in the Navy, and Mr. Guyra rises to state that if need be to assert the even temper and peace of his client, he would call half the captains of the British Navy. Now, we are shut from the duel that honour must fight with the law. No eye can perceive the fields wherein hundreds of shadowy combats must decide between a ghost and a living eidolon. A ghost with his army of the terrors of bloodshed, a half-ghost with the grand fleet of names that, like sunrise, have dazzled the race with their march on the ocean. 20 minutes. How say you? Not guilty? Then from his chair with his surgeon the captain walks home to his dog, his friends' acclamations, supplying some colour to the pale looks he had, less pale than Montgomery's, and honour rides on. Has a certain relevance to our stage and age. It's a good poem, that one.
Wow.
Very, very strange.
Yeah.
Write a book about it.
Yeah, absolutely. What's the book?
You're going to read later on? You got time to
Yeah,
read?
I will. What's the book there?
Oh, that's the Georgian poetry.
Okay.
That's Edmund Blunden, and he's got an obsession with this red sunset image. Pops up all the time in his poetry, this blast of red sunset, because he was a soldier on the battlefields of World War I. And I suppose at any moment they thought they were going to get the red blast of sunset and be...
Yeah.
He's a wonderful poet. I'm starting to study him. I've missed him in my life's reading.
Well, on that note, I'm going to invite Paul on up. Come on up, Paul.
All right. Now, it's winter time in Guyra. Yeah, I think it is. I've now done a clown a long time. Now, I knew the Thundercloud when he had his first real important job.
What job?
He had a job with a torch and a compass, leading blind turkeys out of the barn to shit. Now, Now Thundercloud, at one point was my neighbour and my chook laid an egg on Thundercloud's side of the fence, and I said, oh, give me that egg, Thundercloud. And he said, what's on my side on the property is my property, no egg. So this fella said, well, we'll settle the matter with Rochambeau. I kick you in the balls, and you kick me in the balls, and when one quits, the matter is settled. So this fella delivered Thundercloud an atomic World Cup final kick in his plums. And Thundercloud went down, but he got back up with his prunes in plaster and a sling, and he said, oh, my turn now. And this fella said, keep the bloody egg. Now, this fella was walking along a deserted beach, and he found a magic lantern. He picked up the lantern and he rubbed the lantern, and a genie came out the lantern and said, I grant you one wish. And this fella, he thought and he thought and he pondered and he thought, and he said, Genie, I would like to see the end of all wars between nations and goodwill amongst men and peace and harmony forever. And the genie said, it's a bit tough, even Ukraine, like, a bit tough, probably beyond it'd be impossible. And he said that, and the genie said, have you got another wish? And this fella said, quick as lightning, could you make Thundercloud's poem shorter, less frequent, and without mermaids, and without unicorns, and without emus? And the genie said, what was that first wish again? Now give that fella a great big hand, come on!
Alright. Now that was just in jest. It's all it was
Of
true.
course, of course.
Yes, all true. Now tonight, what's this doing here? I'm not allowed to touch that because the last time I touched the lectern it got destroyed. Anyway, I'm going to make it short tonight. I've just come back from the fields of honour. Been working out there in the ice and cold conditions of Guyra. Big shout out to all the fans. Big shout out to everybody. I forgot to give a big shout out a while ago to my nephew, Bruno Arnholt, and Bruno, again, happy days, and all the others in the family. Tonight, I'm going to bring to the subject. I want to mention the great mathematician and physicist Sir Roger Penrose, who received the Nobel Prize for Physics in 2020, as you know, Ashley. Now, this is a wonderful man. He's more wonderful in the world, I think, than Kim Kardashian. For his great work on applied mathematics as it applies to the origins of the universe, the Big Bang Theory, relativity, as well as infinitely fine mathematics applied to infinitesimally small particles, and also to the expanse of the universe. He's a very pondered man, very great man. Must have been an old man too, because he was giving lecture in 1958. He must have been a savant of some kind. Brilliant man, Englishman, lovely man. So anything you can see on Sir Roger is worth looking at because it's very enlightening. Now tonight I make mention of the great composer of the Elizabethan era. Well, he actually pre-entered the Elizabethan era. He was a musician in the court of King Henry VIII. And this man's name was Thomas Tallis. Now, Thomas Tallis wrote a lot of sort of sacred music. At the time, before the Reformation, he was Catholic, so it's a very strange time. He was a composer in the Reformation. He also lived and survived through the plague. So this was, and he's called a Renaissance man. He lived from 1505 to 1586. His amongst other marvellous works, liturgical works and chapel works and choir works, he wrote a very small piece of music which is prevalent today, and that piece of music was called the third mode melody. And the third mode in music is the E Phrygian mode of a normal scale, or a normal scale, and it creates a sort of a mystery and intensity in how we perceive the tones. And the third mode melody has been sung in a cappella style. It's been played on various instruments, and Ralph Vaughan Williams in 1910 wrote what he called the Fantasia on a theme of Thomas Tallis, and that's what I'm recommending everyone looks at on YouTube when all the fun and excitement of all this part is over, when James has exhausted himself from telling poems and all the stars are featured. When it's all over and you're coming down off that great height, then have a look for third mode melody, Thomas Tallis, and I recommend two pieces to ponder. It's been done in so many styles and so many ways on different ensembles, but as an introduction to the very tonic, stripped back bare melody, which is quite short, there's an American guitarist and composer called Robert Lane. It's Lane anyway, L-U-N. And he plays that in a classical style on the guitar, so you can hear the actual tones accurately in individual notes of the third mode. And then the great orchestra piece written in 1910, based on the third mode melody by Ralph Vaughan Williams, I think is best played by the Toronto Symphony Orchestra. Now, when you see that, you're going to see, maybe for the first time in your life, what's called a double string orchestra. And the whole piece, which is about 17 minutes, you can afford that amount of time in your life. That whole piece, Doug, is 17 minutes, and it's a double string orchestra, and you'll hear the different rise and swells because he used all the different, shall we say, inflections on that basic melody all the way through. So it's a very, very lovely work. Again, very peaceful, very calming, very good for your nerves and very good for your serenity. So after you've watched that, it will bring calmness into your moment when you watch it. So tonight, I'm recommending Thomas Tallis. I'm recommending the, I can't remember, Lane guitar playing. I'm recommending the Fantasia on a theme by Thomas Tallis by the Toronto Symphony Orchestra. Just for your enjoyment. So, again, I won't rave on. Now, I've got a song coming up. It's a bit, I don't know this song well, but I'll give it a lash. Seeing as again, it's so damn cold, everyone wants to go home. Everyone's dreaming about getting to bed and having a hot, or putting their hands in their pockets at least. By the way, they took the monkey down off the town hall. So, this song.
Excuse me, Paul, when Thomas Tallis is playing for me at the Toronto Symphony, what are they going to play again, please? Is it Vaughan Williams?
The composer is Ralph Vaughan Williams, or they just call him Vaughan Williams.
Yeah.
Vaughan Williams is a 20th century composer. He did Greensleeves, Anyway, Ralph Owens, he wrote very parochial English music, beautiful composer. He was in the Second World War. He was First World War. He was very badly affected by the First World War. I think he was an ambulance bearer, stretcher bearer, a very dangerous position. He saw a lot of the horrors of war, and lost his best friends, composing friends in the war. And he lived up until probably maybe 1950 or something. A very interesting man. But his great work is Fantasia.
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 Thank you.
Just like a bottle of Fanta. A bottle of Fanta. But a Fantasia, right?
Gotcha.
On a theme of Thomas Tallis.
Thank you very much. I got
And then the good one, Doug.
We'll check it out.
The good one is the Toronto Symphony Orchestra.
Yeah,
Just to see and hear a beautifully played, wondrous double string orchestra. It's very, very rare. There's not much music that you'll see with no brass, no woodwind, no percussion.
Wow.
No percussion section, no brass or wood.
Yeah.
All strings. And of course, the way it's played between a small ensemble, basically a chamber ensemble, and a fully blown orchestra. And so what you get is an early version of stereo. And how he wrote it and how it's played between the different sections of the orchestra, you can hear the swells, what they call the swells, as he rises up and fades down with all the strings. And at some points, he brings all the strings in the arrangement. So it's very wonderful to hear. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Doug. That's enough of that. I don't think there's anything else. So now, I'm going to have a stab at singing this song. And this one's called, well, it's probably named after Bradley Street. It's called Lonely Street. Because like at midday, when we first come to this town at midday, 12 o'clock in Bradley Street, it was like high noon. There was not a dog, a man, an animal, a car, nothing. It was amazing. It's a bit different now. There's a few people in the street, but not many. It's a pretty lonely old place. And this is called Lonely Street.
It's not Elvis, is it?
Well, it's probably not Elvis. No, it's his brother.
His brother. Bring it on, mate.
Okay. I think it's his brother, isn't it? Jesse. Oh, I don't know. His brother. Yeah.
Some present.
I've got my head full of Thomas Tallis now. I just can't think of anything else. Anyway, again, Thomas Tallis, don't forget. Have a nice time. Jeffrey Lunn, John Lunn, Jim Lunn, I don't know. Lunn plays on guitar. It's a very nice arrangement, and people do their own arrangements on that piece, and it's done by string quartets, it's done by choirs, it's done by piano accordion ensembles, it's done by mandolin ensembles and everything. So you'll see it all on YouTube. So there's something good to do tonight. Now, if that's something good to do tonight, to enjoy it, this is something pretty piss poor to listen to tonight, and that's my song for the night. And the song for the night is called Lonely Street. The song's called Lonely Street. I'm looking for that lonely street. I got a sad, sad tale to tell. I need a place to go and weep. Where's this place called Lonely Street? A place where there's just loneliness, where dim lights bring forgetfulness, where lonely hearts and memories meet. Where's this place called Lonely Street? Perhaps upon this lonely street there's someone such as I, who came to bury broken dreams and watch their whole love die. If I could find this lonely street, where dim lights bring forgetfulness, where broken hearts and memories meet, where's this place called Lonely Street? Very badly done. I'm sorry about the night.
I enjoyed it.
Very good, thank you, Paul.
Human truth.
What a performance.
Thank you, Paul.
Oh, thank you.
Very good.
Well, we've only got one more poet here tonight to perform.
Put a plug for Vaughan Williams Symphonies.
a big plug for ballroom symphonies.
Yeah.
Almost jealous.
All right. Well, I'm going to invite Doug on up.
Good to see your smiling face, Doug.
Yeah, mate.
Breath of
If
life.
there's any sort of a smile, that's a bonus.
Breath of life.
I'm not always smiling. Okay. Sometimes I'm pictures. Yeah. Okay, good evening. Hello. It's not my bow tie, it's part of my hat, but it makes me itchy. I'm sorry, I should have that on. I stepped out a minute ago. I stepped out in the breeze, and it brought me to my bleeding knees. But it's just Guyra. It's alright. Trust me. Alright, here we go. Hard acts to follow all the time in this room or this place. Okay, a little bit of introduction with your permission or without it. There's this guy who, a friend overseas him. Well, I know I got a little bit of Russian first and actually mentioned Russian stuff, and I had not much connection with Russia, except my granddaughter learned Russian when she was living in Alaska. And she sprouts on a bit with it one day. She's pretty good at it, so the Russian lingo seems powerful to me, just to listen to it. Anyway, one quick anecdote about Russia. A couple of years ago, or several years ago, I'm walking through the mall in Helena, Montana. It was cold, I think, and I was in a dark place. I had recently been chucked out of a marriage and chucked out of my accommodation, and I was in a dark place, if you could believe me. And I'm walking past this second-hand shop in the mall, and there's a picture frame, and it's got Russian proverb. And I wrote it down because it touched me, or it seemed to touch me, because I wasn't very cheerful at the time. Anyway, it said something about, in a Russian proverb, it said, in the land of hope, there is never any winter. And I thought, wow, if a Russian can say that, I've got to show some respect. Okay, now I want a short rave about this guy. Does this come on the camera, mate? It doesn't have to. I'll hold it up, maybe. Is that okay? I'll give you a copy of this if you're interested. Again, I've got a friend overseas, and she said her grandfather loved this guy. He was must have been powerful with words. Anyway, his name was Eugene Victor Debs. Lived from 1855 to 1926.
We're right in the middle of poetry.
Sorry, mate?
Sorry.
I keep hearing electronic noise. I think it's in my head. Freaks me out.
Come in to take us away.
Is it in my head? It's okay, brother. Anyway, I'm going to read Mr. Debs, Eugene Debs. I think it's like his epitaph. It might have been on his gravestone. But it's somehow connected with the poem I've tried to write tonight. And his quote is 3 or 4 lines. It says, while there is a lower class... Bells are bloody ringing again. I'll go again. Eugene Victor Debs. While there is a lower class, I am in it. While there is a criminal element, I am of it. While there is a soul in prison, I am not free. And whatever I've experienced in life, I kind of get that punishment doesn't work for some of us. Thank you. I'll have a little read in a minute. Yeah. Punishment, yeah. Okay. Now, I'm getting a bit smart here, but you can help me. There's people here that know a lot more about words than I do. Anyway, bear with me. And if you don't know a word or two in this poem, look it up. Look them up like I have to. Anyway, what do you got, a thesaurus or one of those things? Here I go. Now, the title of this poem is called, I don't know if I can even pronounce this word. It says, help me, Ashley. Poesis,
Oasis.
Poesis, or
Oasis, yeah.
Poesis,
Oasis.
that's a word, is it?
Yeah.
Okay, that's the name of the poem. I'll try to explain. Poesis. I said last week I was going to talk about A World Full of Lies by Dylan and others. Anyway, Poesis has got some connection to that. Am I a hagiographer?
Hagiographer.
Yeah!
Oh, well, could be.
Am I?
I don't know, you could be.
Work it out, you work it out. Am I a hagiographer? An embryonic poet who needs to learn his trade. New words like this can make me sound so smart. If truth is what I'm searching for, where am I going to start? If I'm just a hagiographer and bore you with my class, I'll be sounding oh so special, a true pain in people's arse. Hagiographer, you want watching? The dark in me and in the world needs telling from the heart. Show me how to find a truth and soothsay with skill. They say the black side of this soul needs freeing from its lair. My poem of dark is coming home complete with touch of beauty there. A truth revealed without a hope, without a light, without a glimpse of magic will keep me welded to all lies that keep me as a tragic. The truth I find in verse and rhyme and honesty of word is hard to write and hard to speak. Practice frequent is required to stop my gift from turning weak. There we go. Poesis is a blend, they say, of art and poetry. If all this gets me truth and feel, let words, well, I must stuff this up. Anyway, if all this gets me truth and something about feel, let words flow from me as I feel. Two feels that will get crossed with me for that. The contrivers and the lie-bers, L-I-E-bers, and all sad doctrination will send us off the cliff and screw my human nation. Honest rhymes of truth I know will prove a gut sensation. Just help me smell the fragrant flowers and practice poem in all my hours.
He's done. He's done.
He's done, he's done.
He's done. Well, Steve, where's your book? Have you got your book here?
Oh.
No? I want to show him. No, don't worry about it.
I haven't got one.
Steve's got a book, everybody. It's called
Where the Rubber Hits the Road in this game they call life.
That's it. Steve's book. Where the rubber hits the road in this game they call life. I got a book too.
Ah, yeah, that's a good one too.
Poetry to End Prohibition, the 4/20/2020 edition. This was published on the 20th of April 2020.
2020.
Yeah. I like that one. That one. This one here.
You can have it, brother. It's yours.
While there is a soul in prison, I am not free.
I like that.
Me too.
I like that.
Me too.
Prison can be anything, metaphorical. I give a fuck what it is.
Yeah.
But you're locked up somewhere.
Yeah.
So this book was all about ending prohibition and punitive justice for self-medicating
punishment.
people.
Yeah.
Right, which brings me to why I'm wearing this shirt tonight. See, it's my cannabis shirt, leaf, colourful, but there's not a green one on it, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting, that green light?
I know, yeah, exactly. All right. So, this one is had another title called Harm Haiku. Now, haiku's got 5 syllables, 7 syllables, and 5 syllables in 3 lines. But then I must have changed the name to Healing Herb Haiku somewhere along the way, but Harm Haiku was its original title. Handcuffs hurting tight, twisted arm and dragged away, harmless healing herb. And this is poem 23 out of the book called Prohibition's Corrosive, and it was in response to an article in The Australian where some top cop said drugs are corrosive and cause social deconstruction. Drugs are corrosive and cause social deconstruction when the police become dealers and participate in corruption. Because prohibition is destructive and causes more pain, jailing self-medicating medicine users is absurd and strange. Sydney has a very high use of coke. On the North Shore, solicitors and soccer mums, prohibition's quite a joke. So, locking up users in prison is abuse. To end prohibition today, there's no excuse. Social disruption, daddy's locked away, so we don't have food on the table today. Deconstruction of family, mummy is jailed. It's easy to see that prohibition's failed. You don't reduce demand and supply is a crime. $100,000 a year for one person's time to be incarcerated. Criminalise the victim of the state's punitive punishment system which incarcerates the poor, black and coloured mums, dads, which corrupts the family and deconstructs that. We could harm minimise like the Portuguese and the drug war and the social disease. We'd empty the prisons if we'd legalise. And ending prohibition will save millions of lives and empty most prisons when we realise the victims, empty most prisons when we release the victims, and we will need many more less police. Saving billions of dollars a year and reduce crime rehabilitations of abusers instead of doing time. And grow cannabis, grow brain cells and get rid of pain, stop alcohol poisoning and destroying brains. Prohibition is corrosive and causes social deconstruction. It encourages criminals and police corruption. Woo! Grandma's smoking cannabis again. She's laughing and giggling and smoking with her friends. Grandma likes only the bestest of weed. She bakes it and vapes it and makes it in teas. She used to have cancer, but now she feels good. She grows it in the garden and it is a stable food. Grandma is high and she's smoking medicinal weed. She gives it to her friends and they love her indeed. Grandma smokes bongs, joints and big pipes, and she's always happy and she never ever gripes. My grandma is happy and my grandma's alive, and I'm happy cannabis made my grandma survive. Alright, so that is my poetry from To End Prohibition, and my poetry for this week, there's only been 3 written. We're going to start with Wolf. I've got to get into a character here. This is
This wolf character.
Wolf, yeah. Wolf. dog named Trevor. Had 5 legs and 3 ears on his head. He loved to eat ostrich eggs, and this is what he said. Woof. I'm a dog named... No, he said woof. I love to eat ostrich eggs. I have 3 ears on my head. My name's Trevor with 5 legs. I'm a talking dog, Trevor said. Woof. Okay, that's it. Even though I mixed it up, it doesn't matter.
That's to me.
Yeah, it doesn't really. It doesn't to me. What, you didn't go into the
You'll be picked up next week.
There once was a man and his name was Wally, and he had a sister and her name was Vicky. Wally had a lolly and Vicky had a bicky. Wally didn't want his lolly, so he said to Vicky, let's be tricky and swap a lolly for a bicky. Vicky wanted a lolly and also a bicky and pulled a quickie. She sneezed on Wally's lolly and ate her bicky. Wally's lolly was icky, boogery and sticky, so he gave the lolly to Vicky, who ate it very quickly.
Wow. Wonderful response. Quickie. Wonderful response of quickie.
A quickie, yeah.
Yeah, just in for it.
Yeah. And that's alliteration. Woo! And the last one, dedicated to my dad, although he probably never ever said
Hello,
this.
Doug.
But, you know, hello Dad, hello Mum. Coming up to, wow, well, he's just turned 78, eh?
78, he's old, mate. Oh, well, younger than me.
He's just a pup. He's older, eh? When I was just a youthful lad, my dad came to me a little sad and he said, my son, I think you're mad. Strange, unique, unusual lad. So be yourself and you'll be rad. Don't follow crowds or you'll be had. Now you see I am a little sad. You went with the crowd, my lad. There are consequences to be had. You're grounded at home in your pad. This was a lesson from my dad to an immature, youthful lad. Don't follow crowds or you'll be had. Very good. Yeah, well, that's it. Have it. So up to, I'm going to put in my big pink hat again to keep my ears warm. And thank you very much, Doug, Paul, Ashley, Gladys, for your support. No, but you came and you listened.
Yes.
We
Yes.
came on a night that is not warm.
No, exactly. Yeah, and we steamed up the windows.
With mine next week.
So yeah,
We
thank
got
you.
ready for the snow with your lights there.
Everybody,
Lights,
thank you
bring
to the
them in.
people in
Bring the snow.
YouTube watching
Thanks for
us.
your body
out
heat.
there.
Thanks for your body heat.
Share the video on Facebook and that kind of stuff.
Yes.
And good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.